Welcome to the Captain's Table. I'm Mara.
I'm Casual Sab, and I'm here to sell you Breen Shield Tunneling.
I'm Cheops, and many of you know I curse a lot. And speaking of cursing, I was thinking earlier about a video that I saw recently that Mara did. And I kind of want Mara to talk about it briefly before we really get into it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I poured my heart into something for the last few months. I just dropped How to Build a Fucking Ship Due, which many of you might recognize from an article I wrote years and years ago. I'm really happy about it. I don't know if any of you have watched it, or either of you have watched it.
It's good. It's a really good video, and it really helps give people the understanding of how to move a build from one ship to the other.
Yep, it's quite informative.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Some people didn't pick up on the fact that the exhaustion was, well, somewhat true, a bit.
Yeah, I mean it's a gag. It's meant to be just tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I'm kind of playing a role here. Like, the exasperation is an avatar for every builder who's ever helped anyone, and that's the point.
Yeah, you're the old Stephen Colbert of stow anger.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of building, we just got some new tools. We just got a lockbox. Let's talk about it.
Talk about I lost my ass on that box.
I have enjoyed the profit margins from the contents of this lockbox.
Yeah, it's been a little wild. Let's before we get into like the detailed contents, let's take a look at this ship, the Keth Sarr. Bit of an oddball.
Yeah, it does have some drawbacks, but it is a really fun ship. Pretty powerful.
Yeah, a fun ship you initially tried to talk me out of getting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it right away and I'm like, oh my god, if only this had a hangar.
Yeah, when it's with any ship that comes out for what we do, if it doesn't have intel and it doesn't have a hangar, it doesn't matter for like our bleeding edge min-max stuff.
Which doesn't make it a bad ship. In fact, it's really cool because for going into pugs, you want tools in your kit, which is one of the reasons why we like having fighters hangars for Type 7s. You can bring your own debuff. But what this allows you to do is because of the twin universal commanders, is bring your own Gravity Well 3, which is really attractive to me.
Yeah, it's versatile. I like the way it looks too. That's just the main reason I wanted it. Plus, it also has, Pilot doesn't get, I think, as much love as it kind of deserves in some instances. Flyer Apart is really nice. The super cool or super low cooldown Uncon is a bonus. My record in HSA is with a pilot ship, so I was kind of keen on getting it, but the lockbox gods did not favor me.
Terrible.
Well, I think because of the pricing craze on some of these things, it's come down in price to the low billions, hasn't it?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we see it go a smidge below $1 billion.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as low as like the Courier Pilot Raider, but it won't be super. It won't be like the other ones, the main sought after ships.
Yeah. But like, speaking of pilot, I understand thematically why it's an intel ship, but God, I would have loved it if it was pilot primary. Like having those extra mobility tools on it would have made it so much more fun.
Yeah,
because I don't need it to be intel primary.
You just want to put rewrite reserves on it because you like the single target builds.
Oh, I definitely do.
Ugh. Oh, that's just disgusting.
But having OSS on there is something we look at so hard with FP&A juicing.
Yep.
Yeah. It's also got some stats that were not listed in the blog. It's got an innate battle cloak, and it has the raider flanking, which wasn't listed in the blog at all.
Which is unique here because it's a 7-weapon ship.
Yeah, didn't the original, I could have sworn I read somewhere it was going to be a 4-2.
The box for it said 4-2.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. So like that's, I don't know if it's a mistake or just Deca's been doing things out of the box, so it seems like they're trying to signal that they're not bound to the old ways, the old definitions.
Yeah, which is good. That's what Jonathan was trying to do for a while, just coming up with some new things. So I like that.
Because it definitely has Raider modifiers on it, for sure.
Yeah,
Like it's only got like 40k hull without any buffing, so like it's definitely a Raider, but it's a more front-loaded Raider for sure.
I will say with a lot of the Doomsayers, they're going to see Deca trying new things, and they're gonna. Whenever you do something new and you try to iterate, not everything's going to be a success, and there's going to be probably some big failures. But I mean, that's not the end of it. They're trying. If they continue to try new things, then that's only going to lead to positives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely like this as a ship you can take by yourself into ERTFOs.
Oh yeah,
Like that's what I see this as.
Spencer did well with it in Crystalline Advanced, even though I did more damage.
It did quite well in Corfez. Even, just going through that Teray phase, it pretty much just nuked an entire group of the Teray. Or the bottom on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And because of its universal seating, you can just load it to hell and back with uncons.
Yeah, there's something really nice about having Grabwell on a CSV 3 ship. Or Grabwell 3, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to build like an ideal ship for soloing, like I want Gravity Well 3. That would be such a nice thing to have. That like I'd even like I would even like lose Scatter Volley 3 if I had to. I'd drop down to Scatter Volley 2 to get Gravity Well 3 these days.
The only downside with this is it does lose a 13th Bridge Officer ability.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I can see dropping a QSM juiced Gravwell 3 on that bottom cube in Hive and then just going to town with CSV 3. So that's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's cool. The accessories are a mixed bag.
You guys own it. I can't talk to that one or speak to that, so have at it.
The console is kind of a miss, I think.
10 seconds of cloak where you can't fire your weapons. What's not to love about that?
I could see it as a pre-phase console, but I don't do pre-phase loading. I don't know about you guys.
I don't think we'd bother with it.
Yeah, definitely not for solo. And even for some of our record runs for the really fast compressed time limits, if we do a preload, it's maybe 1 or 2 consoles and that's it.
Yeah, I don't remember if it even puts you into red alert or not. But yeah, it's the tempo on it's just not good enough. Like 30 seconds for 10 seconds down, it's a no for me.
And the 100% stats buff is following cryptic math, so it's not even a real 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when you know the math, it makes sense. It's just not the way it should be written on the tooltip, because the people reading the tooltip don't understand the math. I'm not going to explain it because I've read the math and I'm not a math girly, but I've seen the math and it makes sense. But when you're writing tooltips, you need to write the tooltips for the front-facing populace, and so it's not the best user experience. and that needs to be thought of. But again, they're new to this. They're new. They're not, they're not thinking that way yet, and they'll get there. It's interesting.
And what about the trait?
Yeah, so it's called Never There. It's a taunt. It drops some probes. It taunts enemies within a 2.5 kilometer sphere within each one. Does some other stuff. Debuffs movement, debuffs accuracy. Or rather, gives a bonus to accuracy.
I did try it in a hive, and in a solo hive, it reduced my incoming damage by about 33%.
I've found that in general content, they're really slow, and that range hurts. They've got a really low range to them for triggering that taunt.
Interesting that they've tried this on a couple of different ships now, because I know the Wild Weasels was one off the Adamant, and doesn't the Ariori have a similar trait, which I've never even tried to use?
The Oriori one, that triggers at a low HP.
Low HP, okay.
Yeah. This one triggers off of TAC and Intel abilities and has an internal lockout, and I don't remember what it is. I think it was was it 15 or 30 seconds?
I don't remember.
It does have an internal lockout, though, but if the range was larger, this would be really cool. I don't know. I need to spend more time with it. I need to go into spend some time in it with Corfez. I want to go into Teray with it and see what happens.
Yeah. See if they can absorb some of the sub-nukes.
Yeah.
It's always fun finding somebody who wants to do a Corfez and wants the Teray.
Yeah. I love trying to bash Teray down. I want to see the day where we can solo Teray. That's my goal.
Didn't you kind of almost do that, Spencer?
Yeah, close. Just didn't quite have it with the solo Talaru.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was the Talaru.
I've gotten a little there. I got 75% of the way there.
Nice.
And then the experimental weapon is a dud. I mean, even bugged right now, it doesn't scale at all with anything. The mark doesn't scale. It doesn't scale with external damage sources. But even fixed, I think this is a dud.
Yeah. I didn't see anything impressive from it.
Yeah, it Bunker Buster it's called, and it does it shoots at the nearest foe, which is essentially just random. The detonation is capped at 5 foes within a 5 kilometer radius, and it does split damage, Polaron and kinetic. It does some debuff. I don't know, it's doing damage, so support escort couldn't really make use of it. If support escorts were a thing.
I don't know. I might have to try that now.
Support squirt.
It's just with hexes existing, it's just hard to justify any other experimental weapons.
Yeah, it really is. It's dominant, and things need to match it. They don't necessarily need to be on the same level, but they need to be in the same realm.
Yeah, I had a discussion with someone earlier about experimentals and trying to bang home the caveat with hexes is if you can't keep something directly in front of your ship, it's not going to be for you.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a skill-based weapon, but I don't consider that to be that hard to keep your nose on target. It's using perches is something that's counterintuitive to a lot of people.
Listen, I have to hold the right mouse button down, and I have to hit A or D. I mean,
people want cinematic combat, and to play optimally, that's not how we fly. If you watch any of our combat videos, we pull up to a perch, and we point our nose at a spawn, and we rip, and then we move to a new perch, and we do the same thing. And that means that the hexes have their firing arc automatically pointed at something big. And they're able to do maximum damage. If you're not flying that way, if you're swooping around, of course your hexes aren't going to match what we can do with it.
But you look really good.
You do. And if you're not...
I mean, I'll be doing the damage, but you can look good.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's take a peek at the rest of the box. I guess let's dive into probably one of the two best items that came out of it. And I mean, both of the best items are super controversial. So let's look at Breen shield tunneling.
It's the best trait, best personal space trait ever. Everyone should go out and immediately buy one off the exchange.
So about that, it's got a bit of a price tag.
The drop rate from the box is really bad, and if you open the same amount of lock boxes as that trait costs, you're not going to walk away with one of those traits, most likely.
Yep.
Yeah. And here's the problem. That price, probably the general price range, isn't really going to go down.
Yeah.
The box is only advertised to be out until March 18th, and once that happens, it's going to be over a year until it gets added to Infinity. So what's going to happen once the box is out of circulation? This trait is going to become stupid expensive.
And this is one of those traits or one of those things where you see the expense. It's like board doffs. You see how expensive they are, and they're nice to have, but they're not really necessary. You can do just fine without them, and that's kind of the case here, but this is way more accessible, and it's way cheaper than board doffs, and it's a notable improvement.
I would say this is also a more noticeable, a more substantial improvement than any of the Borgdoffs.
It's like you just said the same thing that I said.
It's 30% shield and armor pen with weapons in exchange for losing 9.1% max shield capacity. That's
nice.
Well, here's the thing. Losing that shield cap is actually good for us. And here's why.
But Mara, in the shows, shields are important. Please tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, actually, I'm going to reserve that for a later conversation. We're gonna hold that surprise.
Okay.
But trust me, losing that shield cap is kind of a good thing. But like as he said, this box is going to go away. Now we're saying it's going to take a year. We can't just say that out of pocket. That's a long time. Why are we saying this?
Because it's been a year since the last generation lockbox was released, and it is still not at Infinity.
That's fucking ridiculous. Now,
it is.
We can kind of just say, like, it's probably fallen off of Deca's radar.
Probably.
Yeah, it could be an instance where they notice it and they take care of it, and then this next lockbox immediately goes into it, and it won't be that long, but you can't count on that.
No, we can't. And so it sucks, but like, and I'm not giving this advice to the general populace, but if you're in the $1 million+ range and you're building like that, bite the bullet, because it's only going to get worse.
Yep.
And like, fuck these other two, I'm not selling it.
What? What?
Hey, I don't have any of these either.
Whoa. Look, Harmonic shield linkage is a nice trait for someone that is tanking. It's just that if you're at the higher DPS levels, tanking isn't needed. But if you're not at those levels, Harmonic shield linkage for a tank can be quite nice, providing up to 20% max shields restored every 2 seconds and 2% or 20% shield resistance. That's pretty good.
You're trying way too hard.
More than just for a tank, like, it's capable of providing like a couple thousand HPS, and when you're living in what I call the crossover point, where your DPS is enough that you're top deeps, but not enough that you're wrecking things fast enough that you're not dying before they're dead, that's almost as much as like a really high-end player's Valdor HPS.
Yeah. So that's going to be probably what, like between like 4 and 800k in ISE?
Yeah, anywhere between 4 and 7.
Yeah.
And that's something that actually a lot of builders overlook. Like a lot of people who hit that 1 million point just kind of forget that and tell people, oh, you just need more DPS. Well, like, okay, but these people haven't developed that far yet. So like this is a really good tool for general use for people who are in that range. And it's not like the worst. It's honestly a pretty good cost proposition. I mean, what does it cost right now?
Under 10 mil.
Yeah, so like, fucking grab it.
And as for the other trait, Red Directive, look, I've got a few, but I can't even find a reason to try and sell it to you. It's just, it ain't worth it.
That's not the Ferengi I know. Try and spin it.
15% recharge time reduction for Intel and Temporal Bridge Officer abilities. I guess for someone on an absolute budget that can't afford Boimler, like, I guess.
It's an incomplete solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect like the entirety of your bridge. Like, why would I ever slot that? Why would I ever give that to anyone? I wouldn't even hand it to a newbie for free.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand one
that's
to
how
right now.
much I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like incomplete solutions. I don't like things that only affect portions. I like efficiency, and this is hella inefficient.
Yeah, it just competes with too much.
It does, because if you've got a T6 that has temp and intel on it, you've probably got access to like on an EPG build, on like a beginner EPG build. But like you'd have to spend resources on it. Why would I recommend that? Why would I recommend burning resources on that when you can just have Photonic Officer 2?
Yep. Or you're gonna have Uncon, and anybody that's got Uncon isn't putting this on.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the state of the space traits. Before we move on to the ground stuff, let me talk for a minute about Breen Pole for space.
Oh, yeah.
And why I like it. So a couple things about it. It's a 2.5% chance to deal 1% of the target's max health as cold damage. Now, a lot of people have been asking, does this affect it? Does that affect it? As far as damage boosting is concerned, percentage-based damage in this game almost never scales. The only thing that does affect it is debuff. But there's two things to note about this. First, it is rare that something is a per shot proc. This is, and against high health targets in elite content, this will add around 10% of your weapon damage to your parse, to your output. That's not bad at all for a proc. In the context of a proc, that's not bad.
Yep. And one of those rare instances where a dual cannon might be more beneficial than a dual heavy.
Yep, because it's doing per shot damage, and dual cannons fire more shots. So like if you're looking for like cheap output, because Polaron mags are cheap.
Well, they were till you just said that.
They're still cheap. I mean, they're running at like $1 million change right now. So like get them fast. If you're looking for a budget setup, let's say you don't have the Pavan Omni, the Morphogenic set, and you're like in that beginner range, my free-to-play build that I use as a demo, the Journeyman, which you can see in How to Build a Fucking Ship uses the Morphogenic set to boost your base stats, because it allows for that. Like, you don't have Endeavors, you don't have a lot of high-end crit traits. The Morphogenic set is not a bad idea. Polaron is a really good free-to-play way to get into elite, and these make that even more attractive.
Yep.
So like I like it. I like Breen Pole.
Yeah. It just also does not have the ability to proc on really big targets is another downside.
Yeah, it can't do dreadnoughts. It can't do the big cubes. It can't do the gateway. But even without that, it's pulling 30k out of 300k weapon damage. Yep. It can, and it performs in Corfez. I took it into Corfez, and so like it's wrecking the Vaudouar heavy cruisers. Like, it's if anything has a reasonable health pool, it will rip. You just need, the caveat is you need a decent amount of haste. But like if I was using just Elios on those builds, so like if you picked up Elios, that's enough. Pilfered Power and Elios. Pilfered Power costs nothing. It's like that's all I used. It was great.
I haven't used them yet. They have the same. They're re-audio of the ultimates, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. They're golden ultimates. It's pretty.
Okay.
So yeah, no, Breen Pole, definitely check them out. They're cool. Grab some dual cannons. Rip. So yeah, moving on to the ground stuff. I know this is gonna be me yapping for a bit because I'm the ground girly here.
Oh God, and Spencer and I are just gonna. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah, just go ooh and ah and yes.
No, I mean, I'm invested, Cheops. I'm
Yeah,
invested in this
yeah.
in this topic.
Yeah, I know why you're invested.
Yeah, so Glass Cannon, saying it out loud is currently bugged. And I'll get to that. Glass Cannon is, as written, supposed to be 20% Cat 1 all weapon damage in exchange for losing 16.7% max shield capacity. On its face, it's good. It's really good if you're doing a gunslinger build. 20% Cat 1 is strong because there is very little Cat 1 sources on the ground. Most of it's bonus damage and lots of stacking bonus damage or crit severity, which is Cat 2. So 20% Cat 1 has a much larger impact than you'd think because we think Cat 1 in space being the more saturated category. It's the inverse on ground. So on its face, this is a really good trait for gunslinging, which, I have a special place in my heart for. Someone might have recorded a video called Project Gunslinger. But right now, and I don't know if this is going to be fixed, it has been reported, it's 20% all damage. That's really good. So if this remains unfixed, this is just a great trait for everything. Don't rely on that, but, play with it for now.
Yep, definitely make a Reddit post talking about it.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's bugged, and so I told Board.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you're the one asking questions when the class is about to be dismissed, aren't you?
Hey, no, when it's clearly bugged, I have to say
so
something.
So what I'm hearing is sell now.
Yeah, no, for
Thanks,
sure.
Mara.
Hey, I play straight. But
Did you say Mara?
Mara, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Fucking Iowa, man.
So I know it's gonna get me a ton of hate, but I had to say something. Resonating personal shields. It's the ground version of the trait. I don't really care about it. We don't really care about shield strength on the ground so much.
Does tanking even matter on ground? I mean, no. Just do more damage.
Just do more damage. Like, we use invulnerabilities on the ground because we have the Kumarke shield, we have the Nakul shield, which have invuln phases. Like, do more damage, be invulnerable. It's fine.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone toggle threatening stance or draw fire or whatever it is on ground ever.
I mean, when I'm soloing, I do it, but like, other than that, so yeah, it's a throwaway for me. Scent of Blood, I have mixed feelings about. It, on critical hit with a 2-second lockout, knocks 2 seconds recharge off of weapon secondary firing modes, which on its face sounds really good. Here's the thing. In a ground build, you're using Commando and you're using Temp Ops. Both of those have alt fire cooldown baked into them. That's going off pretty frequently. But Temp Ops 1 is based on the every time you set off a kit module. So if you're using in a gunslinger build high cycle kit modules, which a lot of them are, you're slapping your cooldown all the time. But it's really good for tightening that up. And if you're not using high cycle abilities, or you're not maybe relying on your weapon for your primary damage source, but still want that alt fire cycling a lot in a kit based damage build, this isn't a bad option. Especially if you're like a more generalist ground player, and it's also good for RTFOs if you're not spec'd into temporal or commando. This will be there and help your weapon be more reliable if your specs are set to space specs. So it's got use. I don't think it's like high meta, but it's got use.
I completely disagree from a market point of view. I am disappointed in your assessment of it.
Okay, it's the best thing ever, and everyone should have it.
Thank you. Please accept the trade window.
Of course. Thank you for the $500 million.
No problem.
Okay, we need to circle back around because we forgot to talk about something important here for a second before we get back to the ground kits. Krenim Chronophage.
Oh, shit. Yeah, we did.
We did.
Well, hey, I kind of brought it up when I talked about Reddit.
We did, and we meant to come back to it. So, Krenim Chronophage. Holy shit, and fuck.
Exactly. Hey, look, a nice console that does a bit of damage and has a nice secondary effect of taking the shields offline, which for me is actually the primary effect. And wait a minute, why are we talking about nerfing it already?
Yeah, so the passive effect is 10% cooldown on Psi and 10% cooldown on temp ops, which is like not a complete solution, but is a nice to have. So like it's not something I'm relying on, but it tightens up on cons, especially in the current meta where we're relying on both temp ops and Psi on the high meta, which we might talk about in a bit. So it fits right in. But the big deal here is how fucking versatile the active is.
Yes, indeedy.
It's an amazing clicky. It's got 0-second activation, and if any devs ever listen to this, thank you. Thank you.
And please get more of that, please.
More.
And also extend that to Juggernaut arrays and anything in space.
And the dilithium console from the Credence, thank you. But the damage from this console is pretty good, but more importantly, it applies a hold and shield offline effect to the targeted foe and every foe within 3 kilometers every second for the 20 seconds it's active. So this is really powerful for the shield offline and that hold, and the damage it does is also pretty impressive.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is currently bugged in that the exotic scaling isn't working correctly. So that does need to be tooled. And even so, on its face, with that not working, the damage would need to be retooled to work with that scaling properly. And that I would understand.
Yeah.
But over on the Stowe subreddit, it sounds like this in general is going to be retuned damage-wise in a negative way.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. We have to see how that comes out. Bordicus looked at someone talking about it in it's doing double what my things were doing, and we weren't seeing the same things. And it wasn't doing double, it was doing 20% more. It was doing 50% more. Not straight up double. And that was in the context, and on our canon builds, it was in the same ballpark, or less of our other sources. On our EPG builds, 25%, 50% more. It was meta, but it wasn't double. And this is a case of
it was potentially potent for DPS that wasn't as scaling as what it should be. But it looks very impressive.
It looks better when you're not as well tuned, which
yeah.
I can get from a balance perspective, looking at something and saying we don't want it to be a click and win. I get that, but god damn it,
I really enjoy it, and it's such an affordable console at just $19.99. I'm very sad.
It's so good for the low end.
Oh yeah, it makes it a lot more accessible. I was just going to say, I mean, even from my own personal experience, I did a couple of solo ISCs the other day and was having a rough time just because of the lag, but I got like 1.7-ish, and it was like 100K on that parse, which is nice, but it's not earth-shattering.
No. Like, our direct damage sources live in that ballpark, and it's not like we don't have EPG support. We do, baked into our builds. We use temporal primary. We have a full stack of EPG in our skill trees. The console comes with EPG. A couple of our other consoles, I think, we have EPG scaling baked into some other stuff. Like, we have exotic scaling in our build. It's not like it wasn't. And so, like, on that note, we may not see as much of a hit as we're afraid of if it gets retuned to scale with EPG, and we'd still use it for the utility more than likely, as long as it doesn't get nerfed into the ground damage wise. But
yeah, I was just going to say, I know a lot of people are thinking, and kind of there is, based on past instances of rebalancing, Cryptic has a real weird track record of either its damage is reduced a little bit or all the way. There seems to be no real middle ground. Hopefully they've learned a lot over the years as they've done that, and especially with the backlash to some of it. And they actually, I don't know what metrics they use to fine tune this stuff, but hopefully whatever they're using has come a long way since then.
Yeah. All right. I wanna bounce back to the console, the kit modules real quick, and then we can move on to our discussion topic. So just real quick, the kit modules are bugged. They're currently not working with kit cooldown, but that is reported and fixed internally and should come out on Tuesday with a fix. Per million assault drones seem dumb as fuck. Don't really do much of anything with the little bit of testing I did with them. I need to do more detailed testing, but I was not impressed with them. Micro Singularity Generator is a suck grenade and does damage and doesn't disrupt ambush. So I think this could be a very impressive ground module, but I can't have a strong opinion until I see what their cooldowns look like. But promising. End of opinion.
That was the one I was the most excited about when I went into Jupiter Patrol, and I put it down. I was like, oh, this looks actually really nice. Seems to be doing a fair amount of damage. And I looked at the cooldown. I was like, shit.
Yeah. No, definitely broken, confirmed broken, probably fixed. Has strong potential, and surprisingly doesn't break ambush. So really, really nice.
And because that box drops 1,000 of those damn things, I have a lot to sell.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to sell my inventory of them on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, let us talk about something that, Spencer, you just put a video out about, the Magless meta.
Yes. No isomags. Can you believe it?
I actually can. I actually fucking can.
No, you didn't. Spencer came up with that a long time ago. You're just riding his coattails.
The bad thing about that is people watch those videos and they don't always listen to the criteria that are brought up alongside that, which I know is also for another topic we have. But the Magless meta, this is for a high uncon setup. You're running uncon, the Vovin console. Yeah, if you have enough uncon procs on the build, you can run a bunch of universal consoles and you can get away with that. But if you're not, isomags are still going to be better.
I would go so far as to say you can't go full Magless if you don't have Vovin.
Yeah.
And that's so sad because it's such a fun thing. And it speaks to the whole like event exclusivity problem. We're getting a lot of really cool event shit, but it does the wait period between when we have them and when they come back is so sad.
Yeah. You also have to be really good at managing those abilities and when to use them. Otherwise, if you just put them on a spam bar, you're going to have a bad time.
Yes, it's very high skill, and I don't say that to be elitist. It is very high skill.
If you spam one button for your entire set of keybinds, this isn't for you.
No, this has a lot of manual activations.
You need to be doing multiple keybinds, mix of manual activations for sure. It is a much more advanced way to play, but you are rewarded for that higher skill level.
Mm-hmm. Before we go further, let's talk about some of the things this has enabled us to do. So, like, we're running with almost none of the traditional survival tools because we've got some new ones that are actually quite old. Particle conversion matrix.
Yes, my new beloved. I worked so hard to get that friggin' thing.
Yeah, I do want to congratulate Cheops for the work he put into earn this console. We just a little caveat, we did a contest for solo runs, and Cheops put himself up on every table, like on 20 different characters, because he wanted this console that bad.
And the ground ones were so painful, and that's what wound up winning too.
Right, so the big deal about particle conversion matrix, which comes from the Guardian and the Mirror Guardian, if you want to get something for the memes. It does give you, it gets generate stacks upon getting hit, but when you activate it, it gives you a flat bonus that just exists while it's up of an additional 75% shield resistance, which is tasty.
Yep, especially when combined with some of the other stuff you're probably going to mention.
So the ever constant Valdor console, with the amount of haste we have right now, Valdor shield absorptive frequency generator, more properly named, is a 2.5% chance to give you a massive shield heal on your outgoing weapon damage when your shields drop below a certain percent. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. With that shield res making that tougher, it's keeping you really, really happy, really comfortable place, which comes into one of the other things that we should probably talk about, dual cannons, and one of the consoles we use.
I'll let Spencer take that away, even though every time he does, people don't listen.
So basically, Michi did the math, and he came to the conclusion that with the dilithium console off of the Credence, the dilithium transporter, with the high on con setups where we have a lot of uptime on that, the dual cannons can get more damage out of that console just due to having more shots. And, I put in the video that the dual cannons at a very high performance level can come out ahead of dual heavy cannons. And I put that caveat of, you want to have the console from the Credence. You want to be on a high on con setup. You want to be at a very high DPS level, like 1.5 mil plus, or be in a situation where you have teammates giving it to you. And if that applies to you, then dual cannons can come out ahead of dual heavies. And people automatically just assumed that I'm saying dual cannons in all cases are better than dual heavies. So yeah, that's how that went.
I mean, I kind of get the mindset behind that though, because everybody wants to be. They hear meta and they're like, okay, well, if I only have this, then I too can be at the point to where this actually benefits me. But in this case, that's not really the case. And for me, it seems like this is going to be useful to like a dozen people.
Yes.
Yeah. The one caveat here is that, as we were talking about Valdor's per shot. And so if you're finding yourself needing some extra durability, having dual cannons will get you more HPS out of Valdor. In a high haste setup, which if you're using a FPNA and juicing it with OSS and an aux battery, you'll see a lot more HPS out of it.
Yeah, I just want 5 applications of Credence on me so I can just go blow everything up.
I want an instant activation time on it, like the new console.
That would be nice. I actually swapped over. I kind of went back and forth when doing some solo stuff between the dual cannons and the DCs, and they both have positives and negatives. So if you already have dual heavy cannons, don't drop them just to get dual cannons because you think maybe you'll get another 100k or so out. It's not a huge margin increase, especially if you're solo or you're in pugs. It's only going to come in a coordinated environment, which most people really aren't in, unless you take Mara's caveat.
Really, when it comes to these meta videos and like when we're listen to the caveats, listen and like follow them, because when we're talking about these super high end things, it ain't you.
I mean, to be fair, it's not me either a lot of the time, because I have one main, that has most of the good stuff on it. But I have a ton of alts because I have a problem in my brain, and I like to just go into different characters when just like I'll make a character with a single ship, and all that character has access to are the C-store ships that I own. I don't really buy any extra traits and whatnot. And on those characters, I would not, even if I had credence, I wouldn't put dual cannons on there. I would just stick to what I have.
So going back to particle conversion matrix for a second, that and supercharged SIF conduits both also function on taking damage, taking hits to proc stacks that stack up and give you damage boosts. And when it comes to overloaded SIF linkages, or SIF conduits, I think, overloaded SIF conduits, gives you mobility boosts. Those synergize well with taking damage to your shields, which we find preferential these days, if you want to talk about why.
You gonna reference Kittimer here at some point?
Yeah, we got to talk about Kittimer.
Well, I actually I was late in adopting the that shield, and then just let me re-engineer these things to regen and throw the Valdor on and see what happens. And it's like, oh, look at all these numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, like my early impression was like, oh, this is an interesting DPS tank shield, but like we don't want to get shot at. Like we spent so long trying not to get shot at, and now
and yeah, now it's like hurt me, daddy.
Seriously, more pain, please. And we can take it. We can take it between PCM, and we use adaptive emergency systems with a huge bonus damage resistance rating stack. We use dynamic power redistributor module for a huge active heal. We're uncrackable. Like there's this idea that DPS is like a glass cannon. We're tougher than all of you.
And nice added bonus for people who, if you're not max outputting like all of the damage and you're falling short a little bit, you can hop into something like the Norway or the Dalkina and have even more survivability just by adding suppression barrage. And if you with these consoles, which are accessible since they're C-store stuff, you can make yourself into quite a tanky little beast.
Like the Norway is great for being less aggressive than the ship we use, which is the mirror angle strike wing escort, and being a little more flexible and good for pugging with, as you said, suppression barrage, making not just yourself more survivable, but the entire team, which you cannot rely on being, the best players.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't have access to the Dalkina, and when I first started this, I was like, let me do a little bit of survivability. So I just put together the USS Wishkina and grabbed a fleet Valdris, and I was like, oh, hey, this is actually really nice. It's a very chill way to fly because you just, with the suppression barrage going out, you just don't see damage coming in.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. And then we use direct damage sources, which are so cool. So we've got Agony Redistributor, which a lot of you are aware of. It's you pick a target and it stores damage and slaps everything around it, which adds a lot of needed AoE. Really good for clearing, tightly packed spawns. And then someone once predicted that microquantum phalanx array would become very important. I wonder who that was.
You're welcome. Oh, it was you. Oh, sorry.
Was it?
Man,
terrible.
Let's just call this podcast "The Captain Who Toots Her Own Horn Table." Jesus.
I mean, come on. I'm always fucking right.
Oh, okay. All right. Now simmer down. Now you're going to get a couple of comments.
I don't care. I love it.
I'm starting to think that Spencer's response to almost anything, even in IRL, is just going to be terrible. They were foreclosing on your house. Terrible.
It's my favorite thing to hear. It's like half of the shit I do is just to hear, "Oh no."
Yeah, yeah. Do you take this woman? Terrible.
Terrible.
But no, microquantum. It's just a huge
Very
barrage.
high skill.
High skill. Very high skill. Huge barrage of explosive torpedoes. You need to know where to use it, when to use it. But it is kind of... There is some content where you just can't make it work. But in pugs, as long as you know a good place to slap it, it still will perform. It isn't just an ISC one-trick pony.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're ever getting, what is it? It's Zinkethi front and the dreadnought spawns at the end, just press that and watch it go bye-bye.
Cure, kill the it can wipe out any of the groups. We'll murder gate spawn in Kittimer. Great at wiping out groups in Corfez. Like, you could just keep running down the list and it'll murder.
Yep. Royal Flush is fun to use it on for that fusion cube.
Oh yeah, with the multi-targeting. Oh yeah.
Yep. The random elite pug killer.
No, I mean, that's what I love about this build, is that it has so many tools in its kit that it goes everywhere. Like, it was originally touted like as solo, which, you know, that's what we used it for originally, but this goes everywhere and eats everything alive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was slow to adopt it because I was just so used to, you know, the norms. And just for giggles, I mean, I joined Medic and his stream last night, and we just did a whole bunch of random TFOs. And I'm like, this is eating everything that's being thrown against me.
Yeah, I wanna like, while like we're talking about this, I want to give credit where it's due to the original work that was done on this concept to Michi and Kraus, who started doing solo runs a couple months ago on the Atlantis with some of these consoles. And I took that concept, put it on the Angle, started bringing the Type 7s, started throwing more actives on there, and then gave it to Spencer, who added a bit more flair, made it more aggressive. So like this has been like a snowball.
Yep, and I believe that ship is called the Mingle.
No.
Yeah, so if you're out there, just get yourself a Mingle and go to town.
I am desperately trying to get a name to stick to the archetype. I think I'm gonna fail, but so if any of you Stowe historians out there are aware of the old one of the first real machines out there, the Dragon and Drake builds that was just the simple overlapping EP to X abilities to get a power chain running. Like, that was the first real machine, and this is a crazy machine. So I forget who it was. I think it was Chell who suggested Krait, as in the Krait Dragon, to be that next step, that evolution of the machine, the Apex Dragon. And I love that idea.
Machine. I shall call it R2D2.
Fuck you. But yeah, no, I've been calling it the Krait everywhere I can.
And it lives up to the name. It just demolishes whatever you throw it against. I even took the solo build that didn't have like emergency powered weapons, or not emergency weapon cycle, no mags, none of that stuff. Just still using the dual cannons and just absolutely murdered everything that I saw. It's really nice.
It's the most fun I've had in this game in a long time.
Yes.
That said, when I get into HSE, my favorite map in the game, I don't use it.
You've got a weird ass build.
You're a Florida man. You're a little bit different.
I'm a one-trick pony.
All right. Anything anyone else want to say before we finish up here?
I just want to reinforce that everyone should go out and pick up a copy of Breen Shield Tunneling while it's still cheap. I think that was pretty much the big market segment I had for today.
And pick up a set of dual ultimate cannons, just on the off chance that maybe you want to give it a try at some point. You don't have to do it, but I mean, it'd be good to just have them in the bank at least. And they're pretty cheap right now at around 20 mil.
Yeah.
Actually, I do want to. All right, so we've been joking about selling shit all episode, and I kind of want to bring a point home about this. There's been a lot of chat about market manipulation in the last couple of weeks. It's not. We understand the meta because we spend our time in the tank every day. And when you understand this game, you know what's going to be popular and what people are going to want to buy. Why? So we stock it and we sell it.
Yep. And this game is so small, and its community is also so small that like any mention of anything is enough to just ripple the market.
Yeah, like when one of us talks about it, it's not even like we pre-stock it. It's just that one of us mentions something anywhere. Like I'll talk about something in Discord, and someone else will go buy up the entire stock because they have the funds. Before even I can think about it. Half the time, I'll say something and go, "Oh damn, I should have bought that."
Yeah, and that person's name is Spencer, who then flips it.
Whoa, buddy. I have been accused of market manipulation a lot, especially in the past 48 hours. The reality is, I did not buy up the inventory of the Breen shield tunneling trait. I was too busy making videos on it. Others saw my videos and got to the market before I even had an opportunity.
And that's often the case. Like I'm often busy in the tank testing things, and then I tell people, and then I go, "Oh, I should have bought that."
An anecdote to show how fast the market can be affected. Your video came out. I knew what I was going to get before your video came out, so I just went online, hit the exchange, saw that Breen tunneling was going for somewhere between 35 and 40. Bought 4 of them. I was going to give each one of them to an alt. I took the dog out to go for a walk, came back. I was gone maybe 10 minutes. Your video had come out by then. Looked at the market. They were 100 million plus. Went downstairs to get a drink, came back upstairs. Someone had bought the entire supply.
Yeah, it happens fast. It happens real fast.
Yeah, the thing is that there are a pretty good amount of players that have a couple billion EC lying around that have been playing the game for a long time, and they will just go through and clear up a market because they know they can profit off of it. It's why I do have to be careful mentioning some older items that have less supply on videos, because I've done videos that are members only, and just that those members only videos that have a much lower viewer count will tank the market within the first 10 views of that video.
Yeah, it makes me want to rename an alt Ty Het.
Yep.
Terrible.
So like we're not manipulating the market. The market's too so fucking small. It just is super noticeable when anything happens.
The first comment is, that part we were talking about, we're not manipulating the market. That's what market manipulators would say.
Of course.
So I cut you off at the pass, people.
No, it's just it's just being high information. It's just being high information, and it's really what it comes down to.
And speaking of high information, I hope everybody who was listening got a good amount of information from what we discussed today.
Yeah. So this has been a good chat. I have been Mara.
I've been the casual market manipulator.
I have been and still am the Cheops who just likes one map now.
And this has been the Captain's Table. See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hey guys, Mara here. Bit of an editor's note. There is not going to be the Captain's Table next month. I'm going to be away recovering from a fairly major surgery. So sit tight and we'll see you in April.